What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek here. Ian Rappaport was on the Pat McAfee show today, and he had some things to say about Carson Wentz and had some things to say regarding the future for the Indianapolis Colts at the quarterback position. So I thought we could kind of just dive right into this. We kind of look at this video and then give our overall thoughts on that at the end. So without further ado, guys, let's hop right into this and let's begin and just see what they have to say regarding this.
Carson Wentz, what's going on? It seems as if the Colts have moved on. It was my first day of vacation, basically, and all of the internet was saying was the Colts are moving on. The Athletic, I think, reported the Colts are moving on. It might have been Zach Kiefer, I think. I'm not 100% sure. Colts are moving on. They're trading maybe Kravitz. I don't remember who it was.
I think it was Kravitz, yeah.
OG in the game, obviously, Kravitz. Not necessarily loved in New England because he was the one that broke the news. Better or bad news, sorry about it. But Kravitz has been in the game a long time. But they're saying Carson Wentz getting traded and moved. Is that fact? 100% fact they're doing that?
I wouldn't say 100% fact. You know, the word from there is no decision has been made, but they're very much in the quarterback game. So my sense, just reading the tea leaves, is that if they can replace him with someone better, they will definitely look into it. My question is, who is that? Because, like, you look at the landscape of this thing, like, you know, is that Russell Wilson? Well, I'm not even sure he's being traded. Is it Aaron Rodgers? Let's find out in a little bit. Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, is Jimmy Garoppolo better than – you're a Colts guy. Would you rather have Garoppolo or Carson Wentz?
Okay, all I do know is that there's no reason that this Colts team who has seven Pro Bowlers should be plus 2,400 to win the Super Bowl next year. And I don't know if that's because they don't know who the quarterback's going to be or whatever the case. I think Jimmy G would be an option that would probably bump the odds up to being worse. What's that?
Probably right. And I would imagine if you put Jimmy G and Carson Wentz side by side, it would look somewhat similar. The problem is the last two games.
It would not. It would not. There's no way it would. Jimmy Garoppolo's not spraining both of his ankles on one play in which Aaron Donald is already in the middle of a sack. You know, like, I think it's an interesting thing because with Jonathan Taylor obviously going to be the focal point, I'm assuming a quarterback is not going to be able to get into a groove or a rhythm. I bet you Carson Wentz is an incredible quarterback. Everybody said it. We saw moments of it. But who knows if the way this team is constructed is the right way for him to be. Maybe Jimmy G is the perfect guy for that, actually, because he's known to, check into the right runs, which nobody ever gives anybody credit for, right? Nobody ever gives anybody credit for checking it.
Definitely manages the game well. I would just say I think I don't see them moving on from him unless they can get someone better.
All right, so we just kind of looked at that, what Ian Rappaport had to say. Obviously, he's a guy with a lot of inside information, a guy that we can know for sure he's not, spilling BS. He's going to be able to tell us the actual truth of what's going on regarding the Indianapolis Colts. Derek, what's your reaction to what Rappaport had to say today?
Well, I mean, obviously, like he said, he's not 100% guaranteed on what is going on, but he's pretty much, he assumes, and he's probably right, that the Colts are quarterback hunting. And, I mean, that would make a lot of sense. We've been saying it all along, so I'm not entirely sure that it's surprising at this point. But, I mean, at this point, we're kind of hearing from national media guys saying the Colts are looking if they feel that they can find somebody that is better than what Carson Wentz truly is, then yes, they will go for somebody, but they have to be beyond that level. I'm not insanely surprised at this notion. I think just the ultimate question is what they were talking about there at the very end is who do the Colts actually go and get in order to be able to make them better than what Carson Wentz was able to get them for?
Right. And that's the question that we've been asking for a long time is like, okay, it's all well and good to think the Colts should upgrade at quarterback. I mean, I think we could both say, yeah, if we can do that, we want to do that. But the question is who? Who in the world are you going to go trade for? I think the only realistic option, and we don't even know right now, Aaron Rodgers at this point, and that would be obviously a huge swing. But I mean, I don't know, another realistic option that would make a whole lot of sense. They mentioned Jimmy G. I just feel like that would be at that point. Why would you go waste more draft capital? That's my biggest thing. For Jimmy G, who maybe is a little bit more steady at the quarterback position, but I also think his ceiling is a lot lower than a Carson Wentz. Again, his floor is a lot higher than a Carson Wentz, but it's like, pick your poison. Would you rather have a quarterback that's a little bit more limited or a quarterback that's a little bit more erratic? I don't know what your thought is on that. I personally would rather just stick with the quarterback we have, at least for one more year, if we're going to do that.
I think, yeah, you mentioned the Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Russell Wilson's name goes in there as well. But I mean, Rodgers, we still don't know, was on the Pat McAfee show and stated that he's not going to commit to anything at this moment in time, says he's still going to figure it out. I mean, I guess that means he's not retiring. So, I mean, if he knew he was going to retire, then he would have stated so. So we know he's sticking around most likely for the next couple years. So that still gives the Colts a shot. Yeah, going to the Jimmy G thing, I don't agree with Pat McAfee when it comes to that because, again, Jimmy G just reminds me of a Phillip Rivers, really, where Phillip Rivers, a guy that just couldn't stretch the field. I mean, that's not Jimmy G's game. I get what they said is that he's a better game manager. Of course, he manages the game a lot better. But the problem is we don't need someone that's a game manager because we're not trying to go back and forth with teams and rely on our heavy front defense to stop teams. That's not what we're about. We need to score. That's the whole point of this offense. And I just don't think having a quarterback that is not very great at throwing the football more than 20 yards down the field is necessarily the key to success for this team going forward. We saw what Phillip Rivers was able to do. Phillip Rivers got us to the playoffs, yes, but even he's limited. I know Jimmy G might have a better arm, obviously is a younger arm, but for a guy that, also still makes dumb decisions, a guy that had a lot more offensive firepower on his team than what the Colts currently have. I know we have Jonathan Taylor, best running back in the league, but San Francisco had quite possibly the best hybrid weapon in the NFL this year in Deebo Samuel and had a top 2 tight end in George Kittle. And then you got guys like Brandon Ayuk who make big plays. We just don't have guys like that. We can maybe see him get Jonathan Taylor involved in a few plays. We could see him maybe getting the ball to Nyheim Hines more often. But I'm just more concerned of stretching the field. And I just don't know if right now Jimmy G is that answer.
It's like, would you rather lock yourself in with a quarterback like Jimmy G or ride it out with Carson Wentz for one more year? I'd rather personally ride it out with Carson Wentz for another year because
yes.
You're saving draft capital in that instance. You're saving cap space in that instance. And if Carson Wentz is still not your answer after another year, if you get him more weapons, he's still not your answer. This next year's draft, it's going to be full of guys. Like, going to be completely different than this year's draft. This year's draft, they say, is devoid of quarterback talent, devoid of guys that are actually like stars. People think are going to actually be legitimate stars in the league. But like next year, there's a lot of options. And the Colts will have a first-round pick, so they'll have the ammo to be able to go up and get a quarterback. That's why it never really made a whole lot of sense to me why so many people wanted to move on from Carson Wentz this year, and why there's reports that the Colts would just cut him and release him. I'm like, that is like the dumbest thing I think you could possibly do is release Carson Wentz, because then who else are you going to have? Unless you're tanking, which this team is clearly not, like, what else are you going to do in that instance, So, yeah, go ahead.
When it comes to that, you mentioned before trading for him. I mean, again, when you trade for a guy, you want him to be a massive upgrade, right? You want him to upgrade this team. Okay, Jimmy G at his peak might be, in my opinion, a little better than Carson Wentz. A little bit. But a little bit is not what everyone in the Colts fan base is arguing for. That's not what you've been arguing for, people. There's no reason to trade draft capital, lose even more draft capital, to go for a guy that slightly upgrades you at the most important position in the NFL. It's just not worth it. If you're going to throw draft capital and players at someone, then please go do it at somebody that massively upgrades you. You know who upgrades you significantly? Aaron Rodgers. You know who upgrades you significantly? Russell Wilson. Those kinds of guys are the guys that would instantly upgrade your offense with what you have currently. So I just don't think it makes sense to. And what are they going to give up? I mean, what are we going to give up? How much is San Francisco actually going to ask for? You know, I mean, obviously a quarterback swap is not going to do it because everyone knows Jimmy G at the moment is on the same peak, if not potentially a little higher than Carson Wentz. So you have to give something up. We're going to give up a third rounder? We're going to give up a second rounder? I mean, the San Francisco 49ers are looking for a first rounder for Jimmy G. Like, I ain't giving up Carson Wentz and a first rounder. We don't have a first rounder. So, like, I ain't giving up a future first rounder for a quarterback that's not going to get me past the second round of the playoffs. Again, the team that Jimmy Garoppolo had was a more well-built team at the moment than what it is right now with Indianapolis. He had better weapons. He had a better defense. Maybe not in taking the ball away, but consistently stopping offenses. That is what the San Francisco 49ers did. And I just don't think that putting Jimmy G in this system, again, will score points, but stretching the field, teams aren't going to anticipate it. At least with Carson Wentz, you knew he could at least throw the ball 50 yards down the field.
Right. Right. Yep. So the debate rages on, man. We'll see what happens here. We're going to know a lot in the next couple weeks. You know, first off, regarding what happens with Aaron Rodgers, we're going to know obviously what happens with Carson Wentz. But there's a lot, man. That there's a lot of smoke, I think, with this Carson Wentz news, and there's a lot of truth to this. And so, I guess the important thing is to kind of pick out what is the truth, what is just people blowing smoke, and ultimately, we're not going to know until a trade. If a trade does happen, we're not going to know.
Right.
So. We can only speculate up to this point, but guys, we just wanted to address this because I know it was a hot topic here in Colts Nation today. So, guys, let us know what you think about this news that Ian Rappaport was bringing and the report that he was bringing on Pat McAfee's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all your support. And as always, go Colts.